Okay, so let's go ahead and discuss the digestive system. So just a few general objectives. By the end of this lecture, we will know the regions involved in the digestive system, such as the alimentary canal and the accessory organs. And then we'll also be able to understand the various roles that each different region along the alimentary canal, as well as the accessory organs, contributing to the digestive process. A few general functions of the digestive system. Just as you might think, it begins with breaking down the food, and then we extract the nutrients from that food, and then we absorb that nutrients. So we gotta break it down, remove the nutrients, absorb the nutrients. Those are the general functions of the digestive system. This system is a collection of organs and regions that accomplish all the various functions of digestion, each region bringing different aspects to the system. The alimentary canal is the continuous tube moving ingested material from the mouth to the anus, stopping at different regions along the way. Think of it as going on a road trip from here to California. On the way, you make stops for sightseeing and refueling gas. The regions involved are listed in order on this slide. I have them all circled in pink on the picture as well. So be familiar with the order that they travel along. Along the way, through this continuous tract, accessory organs, such as the liver, make contributions to this digestive process. Think of this as picking up trinkets or memorabilia along the way on your road trip. These three organs are circled in green on this picture. Also called the gastrointestinal tract or the gut, the alimentary canal, aliment meaning to nourish, is a one-way tube that is about 25 feet long. The main function of the organs of this alimentary canal is to nourish the body. The tube begins again at the mouth and ends at the anus, and between those 2 points, this canal is modified as the pharynx, esophagus, stomach, and the 2 intestines. And all of those variations or modifications fit the functional needs of the body. And these functions end up being categorized into 6 different categories. But before we get to those categories, we need to talk about the histology of this alimentary canal. Throughout its length, it is composed of the same 4 tissue layers. The details of their structural arrangements vary based on the functions of the modifications throughout the pathway. So starting from the lumen and moving outwards, these layers are the mucosa, the submucosa, the muscularis, and the serosa, which is continuous with the mesentery. The mucosa is referred to as the mucous membrane because mucus production is a characteristic feature of gut epithelia. The membrane consists of epithelium, which is in direct contact with ingested food. In the mouth, pharynx, esophagus, and the anal canal, the epithelium is primarily non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. In the stomach and intestines, though, it's simple columnar epithelium. And these epithelia are in direct contact with the lumen, which is the space inside the alimentary canal. So it's like just an opening, basically, that the food passes through. Interspersed among its epithelial cells are goblet cells, which we'll get to when we get to the intestinal epithelia, and these secrete mucus and fluid into the lumen so we can lubricate it and get the food to move through seamlessly. Epithelial cells have a very brief lifespan, averaging only a couple days to maybe even a week, and this process of rapid renewal helps preserve the health of the alimentary canal despite the wear and tear that is resulting from continued contact from various food items. As the name implies, the submucosa lies immediately beneath the mucosa layer. It consists of a broad layer of dense connective tissue connecting the overlying mucosa to the underlying muscularis. It consists of blood and lymphatic vessels, which help transport the absorbed nutrients from that mucosa layer, and also submucosal glands that release some digestive secretions. And that's kind of pictured here. Various glands The third layer of the alimentary canal is the muscularis, also called the muscularis externa layer, so like the external muscular layer. This muscularis in the small intestine is made up of a double layer of smooth muscle, an inner and an outer layer. The contractions of these different layers promote mechanical digestion, exposing more of the food to digestive chemicals and move the food along the canal. And in the closer regions and the farther regions of the alimentary canal, including like the mouth, pharynx, parts of the esophagus, and then the external anal sphincter, the muscularis is made up of skeletal muscle, which gives you voluntary control over swallowing and then defecation. The basic two-layer structure found in the small intestine is modified in the organs before it and also after it, such as the stomach before it also has an addition of a third layer, which is this oblique muscle layer that helps churn food and move it mechanically and chemically digesting it. The serosa is this last layer, the outermost. It's the most superficial layer to the muscularis layer, present only in the region of the alimentary canal within the abdominal cavity. And so it consists of a layer of visceral peritoneum, which we'll cover in lab, overlaying a layer of loose connective tissue. In the mouth and pharynx and esophagus, instead of the serosa, we have this adventitia. So it's basically just this tissue that serves to hold the alimentary canal in place near the ventral surface or the bellier surface of the vertebral column. So now that we know the histology of the alimentary canal and how it may or may not be modified throughout the changing organ regions, we can talk about the specific digestive processes: ingestion, propulsion, mechanical or physical digestion, chemical digestion, absorption, and defecation. The first of these processes, ingestion, refers to exactly what you think it might: ingesting or getting the food into the alimentary canal through the mouth. There, that food is chewed and mixed with saliva, which contains enzymes that begin breaking down carbohydrates and lipids in the food. Chewing increases the surface area of the food and allows an appropriately sized bolus or food mass to be produced and then moved into the esophagus. Moving into the esophagus requires the act of propulsion. So this is an example of swallowing, basically. And so this act of swallowing is voluntary until it is the last voluntary act until defecation. And this propulsion is characterized by what we call peristalsis, and that is sequential alternating waves of contraction and relaxation of smooth muscles along the alimentary canal, and these act to propel food along the way that they need to go. These waves also play a role in mixing food with digestive juices when we get to the intestinal tract. And the peristalsis is also powerful enough that food and liquid that you swallow into your stomach, even if you are standing on your head. So these smooth muscle contractions are incredibly powerful. And I'll refer to peristalsis as a mechanical digestive process throughout this lecture because it very much so is. So propulsion and mechanical digestion are kind of similar. Mechanical digestion in particular, if you are going to distinguish it from propulsion, is purely physical process that does not change the chemical nature of the food. And so propulsion doesn't either. Propulsion is just moving the food. Mechanical digestion is actually breaking it up into smaller bits. And that includes mastication or chewing, as well as tongue movements that help break food into smaller bits and move food or mix food with saliva. Mechanical digestion occurs after the food leaves the mouth as well, in the form of churning in the stomach, as well as in segmentation when we get to the intestines. This churning in the stomach helps create an acidic soup called chyme, and segmentation in the intestines helps break food down and mix the contents a little bit more for creating more absorption. In the chemical digestion, starting in the mouth, digestive secretions break down complex food molecules into their chemical building blocks. So proteins being broken up into amino acids, for instance. That doesn't actually happen in the mouth, but what will happen in the mouth will be like carbohydrates being broken up into smaller molecules such as glucose. and lipids being broken down into various fat globules. Food that's been broken down is of no value to the body, though, unless it gets reabsorbed. Or not reabsorbed, just absorbed. It needs to get into the bloodstream so that we can use those nutrients in our cells. So this absorption primarily takes place in the small intestine. There, most of the nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream through epithelial cells that make up that mucosa layer that we talked about. And lastly, defecation consists of undigested material being removed from the body as feces. So you can kind of see that here. So this is a very clean-cut summary slide for reference to general specific functions of the digestive system as a whole, but now we can look at each region along the path in a little bit more detail. So the mouth is the beginning of the digestive system, starting with ingestion of food. The tongue facilitates ingestion, mechanical digestion, and chemical digestion, as well as sensation, such as taste, texture, and temperature of food, swallowing, and then also vocalization, such as speech and singing. So that's not necessarily a digestive function, but the mouth is involved in obviously vocalizing, right? The teeth are categorized by function, so the incisors help bite food, whereas cuspids will help tear food, premolars will mash food, molars will crush food in preparation for swallowing. As children, we only have 20 deciduous or baby teeth or milk teeth, and as adults, we have 32 permanent teeth, with the wisdom teeth coming in last. You'll need to be able to identify the different types of teeth in lab, but for lecture, just know that we have 20 deciduous baby teeth and 32 permanent adult teeth.